Do you know what the average cost of a gallon of gas was in this country on February 28th?
Well, it depends on where you live. If you live in California, it's $8.
$2.83. Do you know what the average cost of a gallon of gas is today?
Well, much higher in California.
$4.23. I gotta say, Mr. Hegseth, you said you've got a crack economic team that's looking at the impacts of this war on the American taxpayer, and you can't answer this basic question. That should shock the conscience of every American.
$25 billion spent in 60 days. And when Congress asked for a basic breakdown of where that money went, the Secretary of Defense could not answer. What happened next should concern every single American taxpayer.
Chair, and I recognize a gentlelady from New Hampshire, Ms. Goodlander.
I want to thank our witnesses for being here today, and I want to begin by getting right to it, since my time is limited, on this $1.5 trillion budget request. Mr. Hegseth, you testified last year and you testified again today that you will be accountable for every American taxpayer dollar that comes to the department, where it goes and why. That's really important since, as it's been pointed out, the department has failed 8 audits. The department remains on GAO's high-risk list. The Inspector General just last year alone identified billions of dollars that could have been put to better use, and in questioned costs, that is spending that raised red flags. So this is a crisis right now in accountability of where the dollars of the American taxpayers who are in the middle of a cost crisis, where this money is going. I want to ask about your war in Iran. And Mr. Hurst, you testified earlier today that $25 billion has been spent to date. I just want to clarify that that is money, that taxpayer dollars that have been spent already in this war.
$25 reflects the costs of the war, right? So we've already spent the dollars on munitions and things like that. So we're factoring in cost of munitions expended into that total.
So how much of that has gone towards munitions? Does that include the munitions that have been spent to date?
Yeah, that reflects the munitions that have been spent to date and other operational costs.
Can you give us a breakdown of what those costs are?
We'll work to get you guys a product that has a detailed breakdown of those costs.
We'll work to get you a product. That is the answer when a congressman asks for a breakdown of $25 billion in taxpayer money spent in 60 days. Not the numbers, not a percentage, a promise to maybe send something later.
Yeah, my concern here is, Mr. Hegseth, you've testified repeatedly that you're going to be accountable for each and every American taxpayer dollar that you spend, that you're going to be accountable for the rationale. Here we are 60 days in to your war of choice in Iran, and you can't give us an answer on a breakdown of the basic breakdown of American taxpayer dollars that have been spent in your war of choice? That's a question for Mr. Hurst. Right now, as you sit here now,
We're happy to give you a breakdown. We'll provide you a product after this hearing.
Well, I would love for you to give us this breakdown now and explain to us, was this unbudgeted costs, or was this something the department planned for in advance, since you were appropriated $1 trillion last year?
The department deals with contingency operations all the time within its normal budget.
So this was not budgeted for. My point here is, you know, and General Kane, you've testified to this. We all understand, for you to do your jobs, you need Congress to pass budgets. For us to do our jobs, we need you to give us the details and to be accountable to American taxpayers. And so I got to say, it's an extraordinary dereliction that as you sit here, you cannot account for billions of dollars that have already been spent.
Extraordinary dereliction. That is a congressman saying the Secretary of Defense has completely failed his most basic responsibility. And Hegseth's response was to redirect to someone else in the room. The man who said he would be accountable for every single dollar just passed the question to a deputy.
You're briefed on munitions every week. You and your entire staff have every, just so the American public know, it's not as if you don't have munitions levels. You do from us every single week. So you know exactly the numbers you're talking about.
Mr. Hegseth, you have testified that American taxpayers need to know where their dollars are going. And as you sit here today, you can't provide us with a basic answer to the most simple question that you should be able to answer to each and every American taxpayer.
You're asking a question to an answer with an answer you already have.
No, I'm asking you for a breakdown where you said you will be accountable for every taxpayer dollar. You cannot tell us where any of the $25 billion in taxpayer funds that have gone to fund your war of choice in Iran. And I look forward to getting details from our witnesses after this hearing, because the American taxpayers need to know. Mr. Hegseth, can I ask you, do you know what the average cost of a gallon of gas was in this country on February 28th?
Well, it depends on where you live. If you live in California, it's $8.
$2.83. Do you know what the average cost of a gallon of gas is today?
Well, much higher in California.
$4.23.
$2.83 before the war, $4.23 now. That is not a talking point. That is a 50% increase in gas prices in 60 days. And the Secretary of Defense's answer was to crack a joke about California. That is who is managing a $1.5 trillion defense budget.
I gotta say, Mr. Hegseth, you said you've got a crack economic team that's looking at the impacts of this war on the American taxpayer, and you can't answer this basic question. That should shock the conscience of every American. General Kane, I want to come back to something, a really important principle, and my time is limited. You testified to an important and bedrock principle of American law, that our service members follow lawful orders and lawful orders only. Is that right? Do you agree with the statement, quote, "The military won't follow unlawful orders"?
I do.
Mr. Hegseth, do you agree with that statement?
I do, but understand what you're insinuating at a partisan point.
I'm not. I'm actually quoting you directly, Mr. Hegseth, from April 12th, 2016. And I appreciate that on the record, you've clarified this important principle of American law.
She just quoted Hegseth back to himself from 2016. He agreed that troops only follow lawful orders, then immediately accused her of making a partisan point for asking him to confirm his own statement. He knows exactly what he said about no quarter and no mercy, and he knows she knows. Here is what just happened in that room. A $1.5 trillion budget request was being defended by a Secretary of Defense who has promised accountability on every taxpayer dollar, failed 8 audits, remains on the Government Accountability Office high-risk list, and cannot tell Congress how $25 billion was spent in 60 days of active warfare. Not an estimate, not a range, nothing. We will send you something later. The gas price exchange is the most important 2 minutes in this entire hearing because it is the most concrete proof of what this war is costing ordinary Americans. Gas was $2.83 the day this war started. It is $4.23 now. That is not a statistic from a report. That is what people are paying at the pump right now, and the Secretary of Defense deflected it with a California joke. And then at the very end, something quietly significant happened. The congresswoman got Hegseth on record agreeing that service members only follow lawful orders. Then she told him she was quoting him directly from 2016. He called it partisan. But the quote is in the record now. The no quarter, no mercy statement is in the record. And the agreement that troops only follow lawful orders is in the record. She just built the foundation for the next question that has not been asked yet publicly. This is what real oversight looks like when it is actually attempted. Not theater, not applause, just numbers, quotes, and a secretary who cannot answer either of them. The American taxpayer is paying for a war that was not budgeted for, that has already cost $25 billion in 60 days, that has raised gas prices by 50%, and that is being managed by a department that has failed 8 consecutive audits. And the man responsible for all of it told Congress he would get back to them with a product.